The Alfie Whattam podcast.
3D printing has kind of been exploding in the news recently. Somebody tweeted this clip to me. If you have clips you want me to have a look at, feel free to send them on Twitter. The handle will be on the screen. People are starting to use 3D printing to print houses and potentially cities. Show you a quick 30-second clip of this at the moment. So the concept basically is it can replace the typical construction being involved. You can, download a house from an architect, presumably, press a button, and then boom, it starts printing out the house. You could have multiple copies of that. I think Elon Musk was living in a 3D printed box house for a while. I'm not sure if he's still there. Definitely very Elon. But there it is with the paste, with the material, building this concept, this structure. And people are saying, in theory, this could revolutionize the world. You could build in perhaps third world countries where you need, low cost housing. You could, get millions of these out, and there are many other applications as well. But when you see where 3D printing is heading, where that type of tech could be used in the applications, James, what's your point of view?
So I'm going to touch on that point first around the housing element. Yeah. So this is a systemic issue, certainly in the West, that young people are facing, right? Yeah. Okay, so I recently got on the ladder myself. I bought a flat in London.
Hey, me too.
Hooray, there you go. Yeah, we did it, right? Yeah, it's taken me 10 years.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, right?
London's expensive.
Okay, London is insane. I don't live that centrally. Like, I live in a one-bedroom apartment. In my opinion, my requirements were very normal. Sure. I don't live beyond my means, right? Yeah. But the fact that very few select people can own their own home or have access to affordable rents, for me, is a crisis, right? And so much so that I've actually said in the office that, businesses that are looking to solve that, I would definitely like to back myself. Yeah. But is the problem in that the building? Frankly, what I've seen is it's not the building. So if I'm not from London Southeast, land purchase and property purchase back in the Midlands is a lot cheaper, right? And and actually it's often the land that's the most expensive part.
Sure. Yeah.
And the building is not as bad. I feel like if everyone had the land access, actually most people could probably afford to employ the builders to build it. Sure. Probably, off the top of my head, certainly in the West, right? In developing countries, it's probably a much bigger challenge, right? Course, where if you take a look at, I don't know, I'm going to pick, the favelas of Rio de Janeiro, right? Where those things are made of all sorts of materials, right?
And shanty little houses.
Exactly, and access to material and well constructed buildings is a problem. But does that actually come back to the land question? I'm not sure. So I think that's a great innovation on the kind of the 3D printing. If you can 3D print a house, fantastic. On housing in general, and I realize that's not exactly the topic we're talking about, I feel like there's a more systemic question, which is land grab by, corporations, and then also the fact that there just isn't enough of it.
Absolutely, it's limited, right? There's scarcity in that, absolutely, and where there's scarcity, there will always be an area where the prices are much higher and vice versa. So I didn't think about that. That's a good point. What about in terms of where this tech could go? Yeah. Do you see a future perhaps where we have 10, 20 years 3D printed skyscrapers, shopping malls, hospitals? Do you think that's a reality?
Yeah. Why not? I think if you can build the infrastructure to support it, and it's more cost effective than current manufacturing methods. Yeah. I think the market will always adapt to that kind of thing, like prefab houses and stuff. This is really an area I don't know a lot of, is construction and building. But as far as I understand how houses are built now compared to how they used to build, it's a lot of it is you can get prefab stuff, right? Which is kind of an evolution of where it was. This seems like one step further. Yeah. So, yes, I see that in terms of being able to 3D print stuff in your own home just to fix things or have small things. That's a reality now. As far as I understand, 3D printing equipment is not that expensive. I've used it a few times at university because we had one in the lab. I haven't owned one myself, but the barrier to entry is not that high. I don't think.
And there's a big problem in the States with people printing ghost guns.
Yeah.
Because you can do that. I mean, you can download the recipe, whatever you'd call it, and then boom,
blueprint, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a concern, of course, right? Like with all things, but equally, like if you take the US, like in many states, you can go out and just buy a gun.
Yeah,
right.
Walmart.
So if you're a nefarious guy, like I get that there's that there's tracking and licensing and so on and so on. But like let's take the UK with really strict firearms laws. Like sure, you can theoretically print a gun, but then you've got to somehow find ammunition for that gun.
Yeah.
Also, like you can just go into a shop and buy a knife or something. If you're a bad guy, it's like if you're a bad guy, like why would you go to all that effort? It's kind of like what I was saying before, which is theoretically, can be used for bad things, right? Of course it can. Generally, though, I think most people are going to be like, oh, that bit of plastic on my remote control for my TV's snapped.
It's probably the main use case, isn't it?
I want to replace it because I can't buy that spare part. But I think the tech's super cool, right? I think the tech's super cool. I think haven't seen mass adoption from a consumer level. Like, I don't know anyone with one in their house, actually.
I know a couple of people, but, I mean, such a weird world where it's not like the novel area where people would be in. So where I see this potentially being really, really interesting is when we start to colonize Mars and other planets, because we could send one of these there. It could build a city for us, build all the infrastructure that we need. And then by the time that humans get there, it's all set up. It's all good to go, if that makes sense.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, this is a big problem, right? Is that one thing I certainly, and we've spoken about Elon Musk, one thing I do agree with him on definitely is that like the next step of kind of human, I don't know if it's evolution, but kind of exploration is that there's no new worlds left to discover on Earth.
Yes,
and we're failing at saving our planet right now. So unless something drastically changes, it's going to kind of dry up or heat up or, whatever. So, and we've got to look to new worlds. So, but they're hostile.
Yes.
Mars is not a nice place. Certainly, if you go there right now, you get a pretty killer suntan. So, the concept of being able to kind of send autonomous machines to go there, build something ready for that. And it's 9 months, right, for people to get to Mars.
Yeah, and you have to go at the right time of the year as well.
Yeah.
There's only a window where the planets are close enough. But that's what it would take currently. But
crazy. But, like huge. And I do believe that has got to be the next step for us. So if that's an option, I think there's, like the first question for me is like, do we even have the machines there in the first place that can do that? I don't know. I don't know too much about robotics, but theoretically that would solve an enormous part of the problem, which is that whoever is the first colonizers on Mars, their kind of job is to set up base camp, right? Which is a challenge, like for other people to come.
It's like the most interesting thing to me, space, because it is like the final frontier. Like everything's blockchain, AI, it gets me very, very excited. But space is just like, it's just beyond everything else.
I don't know if you saw, wasn't there a breakthrough? And I never remember which way around it is. There was a breakthrough recently, wasn't there, on nuclear fusion?
There's, so many. Yeah. I mean, it's such an interesting technology, which scares people because they hear the word nuclear. But in reality, the potential that tech has, it just blows everything else away.
Well, that's our limit. As far as I understand, space and that kind of final frontier, a lot of the limitations that we've got right now are based on the engine types that we have.
Sure.
So all like sci-fi and space exploration kind of theory is, I think, based on either faster than light travel, or near faster than light travel, near light travel, light speed travel, which or a dramatic increase in engine output, which we don't have. Like we have rocket engines right now, which are fine for going to the moon and are fine just about to get to Mars in 9 months, which is theoretically possible. We're not done it yet, so we'll see how it goes. But we can't go much beyond because there's not much beyond. Like Mars is our closest planetary neighbor, and that's 9 months. Like I don't know off the top of my head what the further ones are. I know there was a European Space Agency mission to map the moons of, I can't remember which planet now.
Sure.
which is looking for water,
Of course.
again with the same view, which is like, could it support life? So this is like a, in the space world, like life beyond Earth, I think is a critical question.
Would you go if you had a free ticket? If Elon said, Alfie, James, we're going to take you to Mars, and think about what that means, because you're not coming back. Like you're going to die there. You're probably going to be living in some kind of boring company tunnel that he's built underground, because you can't walk around. There's little rocks flying and they'll hit into you. You'll die there. It'll be miserable.
Yeah.
But
you'll be historic.
Your great grandchildren will learn about you at school.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a great. I've thought about it before, actually.
I think I'd have to say yes. I don't think I could regret.
Would you say yes?
I think I'd have to. Yeah.
I've thought on it, and I think
you're gonna die anyway.
You're right. You are right. I actually think I would say no. I think I like taking risks. I would class myself as an entrepreneur. I've joined early stage startups my whole career.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, but
with a big B.
That is like the ultimate.
Honestly, forgetting everything that I know, like it's not going to be a utopia.
No.
It's not the danger that scares me. Actually, thinking about it, it's more the fact that who could come with me. Like maybe if you could bring your whole family, that's a slightly different proposal at that point. Like maybe that's okay, but
you wouldn't be able to though at first.
Yeah, that's the issue, and that's where I struggle with it, and where I would say
you'd have to say goodbye to everybody that you've ever loved.
Right, which is probably why I would err on the side of no.
Yeah. I'm sure my wife is watching this going, what
the hell? Like, oh my God.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe not. Hey, thanks for watching this YouTube video. If you want to see more like this, please remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.